An Oscar nominee before the age of 20, a glamorous first marriage to a man with a heartbreaking secret. The late Angela Lansbury's legendary life was so much more than Murder, She Wrote. When MGM cast its 1943 film noir, Gaslight, almost all the lead acting roles were quickly locked in, with a cast that included Ingrid Bergman, Charles Boyer, and Joseph Cotten.
You're afraid you're going out of your mind? Well, I'm here to prove to you that you're not.
But the studio couldn't find the right actor to play Nancy, the conniving, flirtatious maid, until one of the screenwriters spotted a teenage Angela Lansbury at Bullock's department store, where she was a salesperson. The 17-year-old did a screen test and impressed the director, George Cukor, enough that he cast her, even though she had no experience acting in films.
I want to know whether it was you who took the picture down.
Of course it wasn't, sir. What would I want to take it down for?
According to the 1979 biography, on Cukor, the director recalled, on the first day of shooting, even though she was only 17 and had no experience, she was immediately professional. She became this little housemaid. Even her face seemed to change. Suddenly, I was watching real movie acting. That job got Lansbury noticed. Not only did she get an MGM contract, but she earned her first Oscar nomination for the role. According to the Movies Network, Lansbury looked back on the experience fondly, saying, "It was a thrilling experience to work with an absolute ace director, and to work with Ingrid, a wonderful, lovely woman who was so kind to me. It was a great experience for a first movie." When Lansbury was 19, she married actor Richard Cromwell, who was 35. They eloped in 1945 and stayed together for less than a year. The age difference never disrupted the union, but a secret her husband kept did. He was gay. Lansbury told the Radio Times in 2017, "I had no idea that I was marrying a gay man. I found him such an attractive individual, a very glamorous person. He knew everybody. He was a friend of Joan Crawford's, these people who I was fascinated by as a young actress." Still, the marriage's failure didn't hurt their friendship. Lansbury and her second husband, Peter Shaw, stayed friends for years with her ex-husband until Cromwell died in 1960. Lansbury added, "It didn't injure or damage me in any way, because he maintained a friendship. I wasn't prepared for that. It was just a terrible error I made as a very young woman, but I don't regret it." Lansbury married Shaw in 1949, and the second time was the charm. They celebrated 54 years together before he died in 2003. Lansbury appeared on Broadway 14 times. She won 5 Tony Awards for appearing in productions like Sweeney Todd and Blithe Spirit, but her first appearance in a Broadway musical didn't fare well. Anyone Can Whistle, with music and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim, closed after 9 performances, according to PBS. Hotel Paradiso in 1957 was Lansbury's stage debut, and she steadily appeared in theatrical productions until she finished her run in the play A Little Family Business. Then, Lansbury left the stage for 23 years as she pursued other projects, like 12 years of Murder, She Wrote.
Well, my name is Jessica Fletcher. I'm very anxious.
Jessica Fletcher, the author Jessica Fletcher?
Well, yes.
She returned to Broadway in the Terrence McNally play Deuce in 2007, and appeared several times since, in shows like A Little Night Music and Gore Vidal's The Best Man. She also revisited her first musical part, doing a concert version of the show in 1995. Anyone Can Whistle at Carnegie Hall featured a star-studded cast, including Bernadette Peters and Madeline Kahn. British Labour Party leader and activist George Lansbury was Angela Lansbury's grandfather. The actor once told The Guardian, "We had in our circle someone enormously charismatic. He was not, I suppose, speaking for everyone, but he wanted to represent the working class." Her granddad was not afraid of controversy. He went to prison in 1921 after the Poplar Rates Rebellion in England. George, who was mayor of the borough, refused to enact a rule about increasing precept rates, essentially a tax, from the London County Council, believing it impacted the working class unfairly. George once said, "If we have to choose between contempt of the poor and contempt of court, it will be contempt of court." The strike and the subsequent protests pushed for change that ultimately made the rate more equitable. Lansbury was the leader of England's Labour Party from 1932 to 1935. He also supported women's rights, something that also led to jail time in 1913. A pacifist, Angela Lansbury's grandfather chaired the No More War movement and was president of War Resisters International. George died from cancer in 1940 at age 81. The TV show about amateur detective Jessica Fletcher may have seemed like perfect casting in 1984, but the truth was that Lansbury took the role simply because of the money. Lansbury told The Mirror, There comes a time in a theatrical life when you say to yourself, well, I can't make any money in the theater, so television was a very specific decision I made. It turned out that Lansbury was right. She made more than $340,000 per episode during the show's peak when about 23 million viewers watched her character solve case after case.
Vivian Proctor has another husband in New York.
The show ran for 264 episodes over the 12 seasons it aired and played in almost 50 countries. One of her biggest fans was old Blue Eyes himself, crooner Frank Sinatra. The two had dinner together with their spouses, and he even asked Lansbury how the show was created. The show ultimately received nominations for 14 Golden Globes and 41 Emmys, earning 6 statues and 2 wins, respectively. 4 of Lansbury's Golden Globes came from her work on Murder, She Wrote.